Hey, fancy listeners. Francesca Hampton here, and I am honored that you took time to tune in once again. And I'm committed to sharing content that will make you glad you did. So, welcome to the Fancy Thoughts Podcast, a weekly podcast designed to give you perspective, insight, and encouragement to release the greatness inside of you. I want you to live fancy life, where you are fostering achievement, never compromising you, because someone is waiting for you. Before we get into this week's fancy thought, let's remind ourselves what we talked about last time. Last time we said that someone is waiting for you. We reminded ourselves that waiting just simply means that someone is in delay, in expectation or anticipation of something. And we acknowledged that the something that people are waiting for is you. There is something on the inside of you that has to come out, and that there are people who are waiting in anticipation for that to be released. The time is now because someone is waiting for you. And now it's time to get into this week's fancy thought. But before I tell you what that is, I want to apologize for missing you all last week. Last week, I was on some much needed family time, and I am grateful that I was able to unplug and get away for a little while. But that means I missed you. However, I am back this week with episode 14, and I am extremely excited about what we're going to discuss today. Now, we've been talking a lot, especially over the past few weeks, digging in on some very important topics that are going to help us to release greatness on the inside of us. And we've dug in and probably kicked over, as they say, some sacred cows, or exposed some different thoughts that we may have had and didn't even know that were residing in our subconscious. But the idea being that we're exposing those things so that we can deal with them, we can respond, we can do things a little bit different so that we can release the greatness that's on the inside of us. And so this week should be no different. I'm excited about this particular topic simply because I have had many conversations throughout this week that helped me to understand this is something that not only I deal with, or even those that I might be close to, but also other people such as yourself may be dealing with as well. So today's fancy thought is: the needful answer is no. Let me say that again. The needful answer is no. Now, when we think about the word no, or answering no, for some people, that's very difficult. Sometimes no sounds negative. It has a negative connotation to it. No sounds like I don't want to. It sounds like I don't have to. You can't make me. You think about a child when children are learning their first words. One of the very first words that many children learn is no. Why? Because as they're discovering, as they're growing, as they're beginning to find access, for lack of a better phrase, to different things, we consistently as parents have to tell them no. No, don't touch that. No, don't go there. No, don't put that in your mouth. No, don't put your finger in that. Whatever it may be. And so they quickly learn that word and begin to start repeating it. Give mommy a hug. No. You want this? No. Can I do this? No. That becomes their word. And so no oftentimes has a very negative connotation, as though when we say it, either we're trying to be angry or mean, or just downright, cutting someone or something off. And truth to be told, many times that is the case. However, no has so much power when it comes to us protecting our time, our space, our heart, our focus. And that's where we're going to talk about today. The needful answer is no. Now, recently I was listening to one of my favorite speakers, and that's Dr. Dharius Daniels. And in his series called Embracing Excellence, he spoke about the power of no. And he said it best: you cannot say yes to excellence if you're unwilling to say no to the unnecessary. I'm going to say that again. You cannot say yes to excellence if you're unwilling to say no to the unnecessary. And I really appreciate that particular statement. And in our context, we would say you cannot release the greatness on the inside of you if you're unwilling to say no to the unnecessary. What does that mean? Many times we say yes because we feel like it's the right thing to do. We feel like we can, so we should, or we feel pressured to do so for many different reasons. I want to focus in for just a moment on that middle one. We say yes because we can. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And we know that in, many different scenarios where it's like, okay, well, I can go work at this particular place, but maybe I shouldn't because it doesn't align with my career goals. Or I can, have another piece of cake, but I shouldn't because I said I'm on a diet, or I'm trying to reduce my sugar intake, or I just know I don't need another piece of cake. Whatever the case may be, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And so saying yes doesn't always take into consideration the things that we possibly can do, but don't necessarily need to do. And that's why I love the way that he said it when he said saying no to the unnecessary. And so, of course, I looked up the word unnecessary because I think it really will drive home what we're talking about today. And the Collins Dictionary states that if you describe something as unnecessary, you mean that it's not needed or it does not have to be done. Okay? I want to focus in on that. It means that it's something that does not have to be done. And I want to add to that by you. Because this is the most important part that we need to recognize in the needful answer is no. It's no for me. It doesn't mean that the thing that you're asking or the thing that you've been asked to do doesn't need to be done, but it may not need to be done by me. It may not need to be done right now. It may not need to be something that needs to be my focus, although it is something that needs, again, to be done. I'll give you another example. Let's say that you have a family member or a close friend who needs money. And so, you have it. So you say, they come to you and they say, can I borrow X amount of dollars? Of course you can. No problem. They don't pay it back. They come back again, I'm really on hard times right now. I'm just wondering, can you loan me some more money? And, out of your love and care and concern for them, you have it. So you give it to them again. They come back again, never having paid back what they have borrowed from you before. And they say, things just have not turned around for me yet. And I just wonder, if you can give me a little bit more money. Now, your first answer might want to be yes. But now we need to start thinking about if we're actually helping in this scenario. Are we actually empowering them to prosper? Are we empowering them to do for themselves? Are we empowering them to be able to find different avenues and ways to get themselves back on their feet? Or are we becoming a crutch for them? Are we becoming a source for them? Are we becoming, just a easy way out for them? And so in that scenario, you need to really evaluate. You really need to pray about it and ask God, is this a scenario that I should do something, even though I can do it? Right? And then if you say no to that person, many times there'll be a backlash. What do you mean you can't help me? I know you have it. You do well off. You may be married and you have a 2-income household and they may be a single person household, or maybe you're just doing well for yourself because you're a good steward of your money. And so they look at you and they say, well, you have it. Why can't you help me? If you cared about me, if you were concerned about me as a family member or a friend, if you loved me, you would help me. And that right there is the crux of the negativity of the word no. Because there is an assumption that because you ask me and you feel that I can, that I must say yes. But the needful answer is no. Another person's necessity or another person's lack or another person's need does not automatically equate a decision or an action on my part. Your life does not necessarily dictate my life's actions. And we need to remember that in every single way, because if not, we will consistently put ourselves in situations that we can help, but we were never supposed to help. And in the long run, we may do more damage in our lives and in the lives of those that we think that we're helping. So I want to look at this a little bit more. Again, I'm going to keep repeating the whole concept. The needful answer is no. I want to give you a couple of questions to ask yourself whenever you're put in a situation where you need to do something outside of the ordinary or outside of things that you've already purposed and positioned and decided to do. So the first question to ask, am I the only person that can do this? Now, I'm going to warn you, even as we go through these questions, that many times the very question itself or the very answer to these questions carries, again, that either negative connotation or heaviness or pressure because we feel or we've been told or we've been put in situations by our own actions that make it seem that we should always say yes. And so in order to change that behavior, we have to change our mindset. It's not easy to go from being a yes person to a no person in certain situations unless you change the way you think. You have to recognize there's a reason that you should say no, just as much as there is a reason why you should say yes. I remember I was speaking with a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about this very situation, and she was saying to me, many times we, get asked to do certain things or what have you, and we think of, well, I have every reason to say yes. I can do it. I am available. I am qualified. So, I don't have enough reason, to say no. I don't have a reason to say no. But the reality is we need to think, but do I have a reason to say yes? My ability, my availability, my qualifications aren't always enough to equal a yes. Because there's other things in my own life. There's other things in my own purpose. There's other things in my own, in the things that I want to do and I want to be present for that I have to begin to take into consideration. And I think that's really important. There are things that I want to be present for. It doesn't necessarily mean that's because you can't do something because you have something else to do at the exact same time. There may be things that you want to be present for. And the first thing you need to be present for is you. Perhaps that was a day someone asked you to do something, but it was on a day where you were planning to do nothing. You were planning on doing what we talked about before, and that's self-care. You were planning on doing self-promotion. You were planning on preparing for something else that you want to do in the future. And so to do this thing would actually take away from that focus time, take away from that self-care time, take away from the time that you had for you. Or again, say there was something else that you thought might be coming up and you wanted to keep your calendar open so that you could do that. And so then someone comes and asks you something and you're like, well, technically, I don't know if it's going to happen and I'm free. So I guess I'll go ahead and do it. Again, you're focusing your response simply on the fact that you can physically or financially or mentally, you can, and you are physically available. But those are not the only reasons that you should say yes. All right, let me get back to these questions. So the first one again, am I the only person that can do this? Sometimes we think, Bill asked me to do something and immediately I'm going to say yes. But you're not the only person that can do it. So why is it that you need to respond to the yes immediately? So these are questions you ask yourself. These are questions that should help you to determine whether or not you should say yes to a certain situation. Here's the next one. Is there a negative consequence if this is not done right this moment? Because sometimes your no is not now, right? Or you have to understand that the person may want it done right now, but if they're asking you, right now might not be the right time. And so again, I remember there was a particular quote, and I probably won't say it correctly because I don't remember it in its entirety, but it was basically saying an emergency on your part does not dictate urgency on my part. You have an emergency. When did it become necessary for me to rush, to make haste, to hurry up because you have an emergency? Now, we're not talking about within families. We're not talking about between husbands and wives and children and parents necessarily. But in some cases, actually, we are. Just because you forgot to do something, why is it now I need to rush, stop, drop what I'm doing to now help you in the situation because you didn't manage your time properly? Now, again, there are certain situations where you do need to do that. We understand that. But these are questions that you need to ask yourself before you quickly say yes. So again, I'm going to repeat that question. Is there a negative consequence if this is not done right this moment? Here's the next question. Will this take away from something else that I've already committed to? And that could be an event. That could be some place that you said you were going to be. This could be something else that you said you were going to do. Or it could simply be a decision. Did I decide that on Saturday, I'm going to rest? And so you asking me this question or asking me, to do this thing takes away from the thing that I said I was going to do. Whether that thing that I'm supposed to do is as important to you or not is irrelevant. If I made a decision that I was going to rest, that I was going to go and pamper myself, that I was going to go out with a girlfriend or whatever, and you came and asked me to do something that takes away from that, that means that I need to first consider that before I say yes. You have a right to think about your own commitments, decisions, and life before you say yes to someone else. You are just as important as someone else. Your needs, your decisions, your purpose, your focus is just as important. And we can't just downgrade and diminish and dismiss ourselves because someone else has a need. The last question to ask yourself, am I being asked or am I volunteering because I have something unique to offer in this situation or simply because I'm available? And I think that is so important. It goes back to the first question. Am I the only person that can do this? You might not be the only person, but perhaps you have a unique way of doing things that will add an extreme amount of benefit in this situation. And so that might be a reason that you should volunteer, or if you're being asked, that you should say yes, because you have something unique to add in this particular situation. But there are times when someone needs something. They know that more times than not, you say yes, though they simply ask you because they know you're available, or they ask you if you're available. And because you are available, they ask you to do something. It has nothing to do with your awesome qualities. It has nothing to do with your dynamic personality. It simply has to do with the fact that you usually say yes and you're available. And when you stop and think about it that way, like, I don't want to say yes to you in that scenario. Because it's not because you value me. It's not because you value what I have to offer. It's not even because you value something unique or you see something unique in me that you don't see in anyone else. It is simply and only because I'm available and I usually say yes. That doesn't make me feel good when I think about it that way. And sometimes we have to teach others how to recognize and value us by saying no. If I keep saying yes, then I can't be mad at you for asking me because I always say yes. So when you ask me again, you should expect me to say yes because that's what I normally do. And in order to change that behavior, I have to change it first. I have to make the decision to not be so quick to say yes without considering the things that are important to me and the things that I value, and ensuring the situations I'm saying yes to value me as well. So I'm going to repeat those 4 questions to you again. So when someone comes to you and asks you, or when you see a situation that you want to volunteer for or make yourself available for, first, ask yourself, 1, am I the only person that can do this? 2, is there a negative consequence if this is not done right this moment? 3, will this take away from something else that I've already committed to, be it an event, an action, or simply a decision? And 4, am I being asked or am I volunteering because I have something unique to offer in this situation, or simply because I'm available? Now, once you've asked yourself those questions and you decide my answer is no, then it can become somewhat challenging and even feel a little bit uncomfortable or feel a bit of pressure when you have to say why you say no. Right? Knowing in your head that you want to say no is one thing, but saying it out loud seems to come with this expectation that I need to give you a reason that is equally valuable to the task at hand. What do I mean by that? You say, we're going to do this initiative. We're going to do this event, and we want you to volunteer. And so you, in your mind, you've asked yourself, you're like, I'm not the only person that can do this. There's nothing unique I have to offer to this situation. And I've kind of already committed to doing something else, even if it's just going to the movies. And so you say, well, I want to say no, but I have to give a reason that makes me not wanting to volunteer for this event good enough. So you're like, okay, no, and you go through this whole process like, I don't have a good enough reason. I want to help give you a little bit of freedom today. The first reason you need to give for no is none. You have a right to say no without an explanation. You have a right to say no, period. Hey, are you available? We're going to do this event. We were hoping that you could help. I'm sorry. No. Well, why not? Just no. And that sounds so weird. Even as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, who would ever do that? But you know what? Plenty of people do it. I've had people do it to me when, I have put together something or I was coordinating something and I was asking people, hey, we need help. We need other people to be a part of this so we can get it done quicker or whatever. And people were like, oh, okay, no, I'm not available. And you're like, Why not? Sometimes they would answer and sometimes they wouldn't. And I had to be okay with their no because they have a right to say no without an explanation. They do. And guess what? So do you. You have a right for someone to ask you for money, for your time, for your advice, for anything. And you have the right to say no. Period. I want you to let that sink in for a minute because for many of us, especially for many women who are nurturers and givers and are consistently able to do many things and juggle many different things all at one time, saying no, especially without an explanation, seems foreign. But I am encouraging you today, in order to release your greatness, in order for you to be able to focus on the things that are going to help you to release that greatness, to help you to walk into the fullness of what you have been created and designed for, you are going to have to say no. And you have to recognize you have a right to say no without an explanation. Here's another reason to say no. I won't be able to help you in this situation at this time. There you go. What's your reason? Because I won't be able to help you in this situation at this time. Okay, we're doing a volunteer thing this Saturday. No, I won't be able to help you this time. Right? That leaves the door open a little bit. Like maybe if you ask me next time and I happen to be available or I happen to feel like wanting to do it, I might be able to. But this time, no, I'm not able to. Well, why not? Again, the end of the statement, the period is at the end of my sentence. It does not need any further discussion. It does not need any further explanation. You wanting an explanation is something that you want. That doesn't mean I have to give it to you. You have to reconcile that in your own world because I don't have to give you an explanation. I am the champion and the captain of this life here, and I don't have to respond to anyone else as to why I can't do something. Unless it's like my boss and, unless you're in a particular situation and that's part of your assignment or that's part of what you've been asked to do, then saying no is a little bit different. But if I'm just minding my own business and you ask me to do something, I have the right to say no and leave it at that. Here's another reason to give for saying no. I don't think that's the best use of my time. Oh, can you imagine? Sometimes it sounds so foreign for you to be able to stick up for yourself and say, that's not the best use of my time. But it's a reason. If you need a reason, here's the reason. It's not the best use of my time. And you can imagine somebody might be taken aback by you saying that out loud. Like, what? It's not the best use of your time, but it's a worthy cause, or it's to help me. Or, there's so many reasons in their head why it was a good reason for them to ask you in the first place. So what do you mean it's not the best use of your time? You have to begin to train and teach people how you need to be valued and treated. You have to create boundaries. And the needful answer is no helps create those boundaries. And these reasons help create those boundaries. Again, it's the boundary that says I have the right to determine what I want to use my time for, what I want to do with my time, and when I want to do it. And if I say, I don't believe this is the best use of my time, I need you to honor that. But you won't honor it if I never say it. All right. And here's the last reason I want to give you today. The way my life is set up, I don't have an allocation for that activity. Now, I laughed when I wrote that because I referenced the Kevin Hart comedy line when he says, the way my bank account is set up. So the reality is the way that my life is set up, I don't have any allocation for that activity. Now, it sounds silly, but I would use it. Like, as a matter of fact, I believe I have used it. I've said it, in laughter and in somewhat in jest, but in actuality, it was in truth, right? Because the way my life is set up, the things that I have already planned don't have any allocation for what you're asking me to do. Sorry, not sorry, right? Because again, you don't have to be sorry about it, right? Sorry means full of sorrow. It means that I'm devastated or I'm, sad that I'm not able to help you. I'm not, because I'm sad that you still need help and I'm not the one to help you, but I'm not sad that I'm not willing to give my time to do something that doesn't work with whatever else I've put together in my life. I don't have to be sad about it. And again, this is a mind shift. This is a change to the way we're used to in saying yes and no. You want your yes to be yes and your no to be no. You want to do things because you want to do them. Now, there's going to be times when you have to do stuff you don't want to do. We all know that. We're grown-ups. And if you didn't know that, welcome to Adulting 101. You're going to have to do stuff that you don't want to do. But there should be a reason why. It shouldn't be just because somebody asked you. So I want to end with this, understanding what saying no does not mean. Because again, we've talked about all of the, negative pressure that comes with saying no and feeling that you need to give an explanation. So here's what saying no does not mean. Saying no does not mean you don't care. If you say you have an event you want me to volunteer and I say, no, I'm not available, I won't be able to help you, I don't think it's the best use of my time, it doesn't mean I don't care about you. It doesn't mean I don't care about this event that you're having. It just means that for me right now, I'm not able to participate or give of my time in that scenario. The two, caring and me giving up my time, are mutually exclusive. I can care and still not give you my time. And again, that's a mind shift, because we've been trained and told that if you cared, if you were invested, if it mattered to you, you would do. But your doing and my doing may not be the same. Maybe I'll give some money. Maybe I'll ask someone else that I know who might be available and might be interested. There are other ways for me to help you than for me to give you my time. Another thing that saying no does not mean is it doesn't mean I'm not interested. Again, that's why I like the response, I won't be able to help you in this situation at this time. It's not that I'm not interested, but perhaps I have something else to do. Or perhaps I've already made a decision that I can't do anything on this day, or whatever it may be. It's not that I'm not interested. It just means that I'm not available for whatever my reasons are. And finally, saying no does not mean you are selfish. I think it is so important that we understand that. You saying no does not make you selfish. There are times when you need to say no because the more important thing is you. If you drain your energy and your capacity by saying yes to everything, you won't have enough to do what you were supposed to be doing instead. Saying yes can become a huge distraction, because then you start doing a bunch of things that you were never supposed to be doing, all under the guise of helping, all under the guise of being available, all under the guise of trying to help. But the reality is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You are not selfish necessarily just because you say no. Instead, you are preparing and positioning yourself to be able to release the greatness that's on the inside of you by being willing to say no to the unnecessary. Someone is waiting for you, and you can't make yourself available for them if you are scared to say no. So today, I encourage you to remember you have a right to say no. So the next time you get asked to do something, the first thing that you should be thinking is, why should I say yes? Thank you for joining us for the Fancy Thoughts podcast. I'm Francesca Hampton, and I look forward to you tuning in again next week. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish everything you were created for. So go and make this week a great one.